are very lucky to have a special guest with us this year. We're going to chat with Max here in a little bit after he introduces himself. Max, I would appreciate it if you would briefly explain your journey since 2018, please.
So my name is Max Schachter. It's nice to be with you. My little boy, Alex, was murdered in the Parkland school shooting 5 years ago. This was Valentine's Day of 2018. Since that day, I've basically put my life on hold. You know, I quit my job. Nothing else seemed to matter. And now my mission in life is to make schools safer so that Alex didn't die in vain and we can have something positive come from this tragedy.
Thanks, Max. First question, briefly describe the city of Parkland, Florida. Well, what does the community look like? The schools, the businesses, the homes? What was everyday life like prior to February 14th, 2018? And what's it look like after that?
Okay, sure. So Parkland is an affluent community in South Florida. We're near Boca Raton in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. And it's nice. It's beautiful. Lots of parks, obviously. And we moved to Parkland because Parkland was rated the safest city in the state prior to the shooting. So my story is that in 2008, my wife passed away in her sleep. I had two little boys, and I thought that was the hardest time of my life. Several years later, I met a woman who lived in New York. She died. Her husband died of a heart attack. She had two little girls. We started dating long distance. We fell in love. And then we had to make a decision. Do I take the boys and move to New York, or does she take the girls and move to Florida? And that's what we did. We moved to Florida, and then we decided to move to Parkland because it was beautiful. And 10 years later, I sent Alex to high school, and he was murdered in his English class. But Broward County is the sixth largest school district in the United States. Marjorie Stoneman Douglas is a huge campus. There's 13 buildings on that campus. There's over 3,000 kids that go to school here. And it was rated one of the top schools in Florida. Unfortunately, the principal was disinterested and uninvolved in the threat assessment process, and he really didn't take safety and security seriously. He shoved everything under the rug. Prior to the shooting, Marjorie Stoneman Douglas reported for 3 consecutive years that they had 0 fights, 0 assaults, 0 threats. So they really didn't take it seriously. When we interviewed the principal as part of the MSD commission, and we asked him, if there's a threat to shoot up your school, did you expect to know about it? He says, no, that wasn't really my job. So after the shooting, obviously, you know, it's left a hole in our lives. We miss Alex tremendously. Alex was a wonderful little boy. Alex was talented. He was on the Marjorie Stoneman Douglas Eagle Regiment marching band. Alex played the trombone, and they won the state title just 2 months before the shooting. I was there. I was on the field crew as the parents in Tampa, and it was one of my happiest memories. And then Alex was a great basketball player. He won multiple championships on his rec basketball team. And Alex was like all little boys. Alex loved Nutella, crepes. He loves chocolate. Alex, he was my son. So yeah, I was born in the 70s. Alex loved the band Chicago. His favorite song was 25 or 6 to 4 by the band Chicago. And every day my mission is to make sure that people understand that the most important thing, you know, when I'm talking to administrators, is that the kids and the staff make it home to their parents every day, because if they don't, nothing else matters. So we have to prioritize safety before education, because you can't teach dead kids.
Big district, and thank you. It's like the district Jeff and I work for. You know, we've got 23 buildings, you know, about 17,000 students, you know, and several thousand staff members. So we understand, and that's what we're trying to help. As law enforcement, the initial police response was not what we had hoped. And to many of us, it was beyond imaginable. As a parent, what are your expectations for SROs and law enforcement in preparing for and having the response to an event like this?
Yeah, no, thank you, Doug. As a parent, we want, deputies during an active assailant event to continue to move forward, continue to search out the gunshots and to search out the murderer and neutralize the threat. Continue moving forward, continuing to go to the sound of the gunfire. So that's what we hope. And obviously in Parkland, the deputy went to the front of the building. He heard those gunshots and he got scared and he went and hid behind a concrete pillar for the next 48 minutes. The same thing happened in Uvalde. But what I hope happens in every tragedy is what happened in the Covenant School in Nashville, where those deputies got out of the car and they went right towards the shooter and they took her out and neutralized the threat. But it's about training. So I hope that every agency around the country is conducting active shooter training. In Broward County, the Broward Sheriff's Office deputies, all of them that waited outside, they only had active shooter training every 3 years. But if you look at the responding other agency, the Coral Springs Police Department, they trained every year. It's important. We don't rise to the occasion when these terrible things happen. We fall to our lowest level of training. So if you fail to train, you're trained to fail.
Yeah, and I know Jeff and I know that with the safety and security team at Lakota, every time there's an incident, we look at it and then we evaluate and whether we have to change anything that we do to make things better for the staff and the students, to protect them.
Great.
After several years of spending time with the school districts across the country and working with Safe Schools for Alex, what do you recommend staff and also do on a daily basis to be better prepared for an active shooter event?
Well, what we learned in Parkland is that the teachers and the students were not trained. I know in Lakota, you guys are using Alice, so that's great. And it's being prepared. It's training. We get on an airplane, you're doing a drill. You get on a cruise, you're doing a drill. We had 92 kids die in a school fire in 1958, and then we enacted fire codes and fire drills, and we haven't had a child die in a school fire in over 70 years. So you're doing the right thing, training, keeping it fresh, teaching the kids different scenarios so that they're prepared. And unfortunately, these are life lessons. The world we live in right now, we're having mass shootings all the time. So I think, for a school district and for administrators, it's not being complacent, and it's prioritizing this issue. And it sounds like you guys are doing a great job. You're doing the drills, and then you're doing a debrief after. You're trying to figure out, what you could improve after. And on my website, we have, the top 10 things that you can do to make your school safer on safeschoolsforalex.org.
That's good. You're right, because if, like you said, the training that we teach them, it could go through the rest of their life, no matter where they're at, and they just need to think. So, thank you. The shooting at Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School was a horrible event that ruined so many lives on so many levels. And trying to find some positive in the aftermath, what are some changes in school safety that have come from your work over the last several years? For example, threat assessment training has been written into law in many states, especially Ohio.
Yeah, absolutely. After the Parkland school shooting, Governor Rick Scott formed the Stoneman Douglas High School Public Safety Commission. And our commission's job, I sit on that commission, we're responsible for investigating the Parkland school shooting and then coming up with recommendations to make schools safer throughout Florida. And Florida is leading the country. We're doing things that no other state is doing. We've got not only a threat assessment team in every school, we've got a threat assessment team in the district. We've got a district coordinator, we've got a state coordinator, and I know that in Ohio, you guys have a very, very robust. I was just there presenting. You guys have a huge Office of School Safety, which is great. I know they're out all over the state doing training. We have an anonymous threat reporting system statewide. We've got panic apps in every school. We have a mental health coordinator in every district. We've got a school safety director in every district. We have a law that if there's a threat to shoot up your school, every school is required to notify the parents of what's happening. And the list goes on in Florida. And then nationally, we have the Federal School Safety Clearinghouse. I highly recommend everybody check out schoolsafety.gov. On schoolsafety.gov, there's a readiness tool where you can just ask 10 questions. It asks you to answer 10 questions based on your safety readiness. And then based on the answers, it will print out a tailored PDF telling you where your gaps are in school safety, what you need to do first, what you need to do second. And then based on your gaps, it directs you to resources and grant dollars. So a lot's happened since Parkland, not only in Florida, in Ohio, but across the country.
That's great.
Thanks.
Okay, school safety and security is a primary goal of every school resource officer, teacher, and also administrator. What everyday recommendations do you have for the students and parents to help contribute to the overall safety of our schools?
In Florida, every school is required to report incidents of violence and drugs. And so we use data to make schools safer. So I'm not sure if Ohio has that same requirement, but if they don't, I highly recommend it because number one, parents need to know what's happening inside their school. Parents want to know. When I sent my kid to school, when I sent Alex to school, I had no idea that he was going to school with a very, very violent individual. And as a schools, you can't just, do everything by yourself. You've got to involve the parents. So, one of the major problems across this country is vaping. So we need to be educating our parents. Parents need to take an active role. Kids are ODing on this stuff. They're being sent to the ER. And so parents need to be involved about what's happening on campus, what's happening with the level of violence, what's happening with the drugs. And so that's important. And there's a lot that can be done at a school level to increase the safety and security.
Good. Thank you very much. Jeff?
Yep. Last question, Max. We appreciate your time, passion, and efforts in bringing the conversation about school safety to the forefront. We can't thank you enough for helping us promote safety here in our area. Is there anything else that you would like to add that would assist our communities in making our schools safer?
I mean, in Florida, the other thing we've done is we have mandated that all of our 4,000 schools have a minimum of at least one armed school safety officer on every K through 12 campus. So that's, do you also have that in Ohio?
I don't believe that's a state law, no, but we're pretty fortunate here in Lakota that we're pretty close to that.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. So, I mean, that's one thing that I wish every state could strive for. I know that they did it in Tennessee after Uvalde. I mean, after the Covenant school shooting. I think they're trying to do it in Texas as well. So that's important. And then also, what we realized after Uvalde is that a lot of law enforcement agencies don't have active assailant response policies. So we have in Florida mandated that every law enforcement agency has to have policies and procedures governing what they do during an active assailant event. So I'm hoping to put that, make that a federal law. when we're requiring and expecting officers to go towards the sound of gunfire, we've got to have policies and procedures to back that up as well. But it sounds like you guys are doing a great job. I'm sorry that I can't be there in person, but it's really nice to meet both of you. And thank you, Jeff and Doug, for putting your lives on the line every day. I know your job is hard, and I appreciate everything you're doing to make Lakota School District as safe as possible. And if there's anything I can do in the future, please don't hesitate to let me know.
Max, I'll never be able to thank you enough for taking time out of your schedule. I know you're inundated here lately. I know you got stuff going on tomorrow. And thank you again for what you do to keep America's students safe. I appreciate your time.
Thank you, Jeff. Thank you.
Thank you.